All right, welcome back, one and all. Another story, another narrative that we're going to actually be able to explore and touch base with. So I was doing a little bit of research here, and I don't want to give anything away, so maybe we'll just kind of hold on to that. But I actually, some people call it research, some people call it snooping, some people call it, I don't know, whatever. But
Due diligence.
Yeah, due diligence. There we go. Because you always kind of want to know exactly where you're going with things. But anyway, I'm excited about this because there's a lot of what I feel like very, very chaotic paths, but they all kind of weave into one story and one main theme. But yet, when you look on the outside, and I was looking through some of your LinkedIn profile and your websites, and there's like this piece and this piece and this piece, and I feel that sometimes in my own life where I've got all of these different threads. And you don't always see that main thread that's kind of putting that all together and weaving that beautiful tapestry that we call life from the front. We just see it from the back and the chaos. So I'm kind of excited to see how all of this is going to weave together and tell your story. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being able to be a part of this.
Well, Tim, thanks for having me. It's certainly an honor to be on your podcast and be a guest here. And hopefully for listeners, they can walk away with a lot of value. So let's have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get started the way we do all the time. Who's Chas? We've got 30, 60 seconds or whatever. We're in an elevator and we get introduced. Who are you directly?
So Chas is a multi-talented guy that loves a lot of things and is just an avid learner. So first, I'm a dad. I'm an advocate. I am a problem solver. I'm a visionary. The kids call me the cool dad on the block because I'm still in good shape and I'm almost 40 years old and I'm pretty hip. So,
wait, we've got to pause on this one. How old are your kids right now?
So I have an 18, 13, 7, and a 60 days old. He's September 4th. He was born July 4th. He's 60 days old today. We had his 2-month checkup appointment an hour before this call. So yeah, I'm just an all-around supporter.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're pretty stoked, and
that's all phases of life right there.
It's all phases of life, man. I got one kid I'm advising on life and college, and I got one newborn that we're trying to get up to par as far as height and weight and milk intake and sleeping patterns and so forth.
Oh, absolutely.
For me, I was in the Army and my fiance was in the Navy, and so we were pretty stoked that little Chas came on July 4th. He was supposed to be on July 2nd, so he came on July 4th.
Oh, wow.
So we have a Independence Day birthday. So Tim, between me and the listeners, our secret is this. We're going to tell little Chas that they do fireworks celebrations just for his birthday. They started on July 4th, 2025, and that's just been what it's been ever since. So, but
I love it.
But to answer your question, man, I'm just an all-around, really laid-back guy. Like, seriously, I'm really laid back. I love to learn, avid learner, and just someone that really loves to give back and offer value, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and I love that the cool dad on the block kind of a thing, because that means that your house is a safe place. And that means that kids feel comfortable coming in there. Because there's a lot of, all over the country, we've got situations and scenarios where kids just don't feel safe at a house or don't feel comfortable or whatever is going on. And when you provide that, that's a huge benefit, not just for your kids, but for the neighborhood kids. And it kind of extends your family.
Absolutely.
We kind of had that at our house too for a while my kids were growing up, and we had pancake night every Wednesday. It was fun.
Yeah. We have to kick these kids out sometimes. We call the parents like, hey, your kid is still here, right? They've been here for almost a week here. They got to go home at some point, but they welcome in. At first it was a little awkward to have so many kids because at first I had, my 2 daughters, and they have, my oldest daughter, she's a social butterfly. My youngest, she's a track star, so she's also a social butterfly, and so am I. And so we just have like a house full of people. Tim, it's at any given time we can have 30 people at our house. And of course, there's a pool as well. So you got a pool in there. There's a big backyard, and there's a trampoline. Yeah, it's like a kid haven at my house, man.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love to hear that, and that's kind of the value, the basis of our legacy that we leave behind. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's transition into a couple of the conversations, and just for our listeners, we're going to actually do this one a little bit different, and I'm excited about it because we're changing some of the layouts of where we're going on this. But I want to talk about what you thought or what you believed life was going to be like right prior to entering that what we would call our professional career, and so whether that was entering into the military or even entering your first job. And I know that we've all had beliefs and expectations of how this was all going to turn out. Doesn't always do that. So, what
Yeah.
was your thought process, and how did you think when you were entering into that professional career?
I'll be honest, Tim. I had a really unfair advantage. I was kind of groomed from childhood. My uncle, he was a part owner or a major influence in Design Essentials, which is now I want to say it's a $2 or $3 billion corporation now. And I had a chance to learn from him very early on. And my dad has a massive work ethic, so does my mom, and we were really raised to work. So I started a grass cut business when I was 12 years old, and I didn't know I was scaling it, but I scaled it from 12 to 14, so about 3 or 4 seasons. And for me going into the workforce, that was the impetus of me understanding how to interact with other people, do deals, make things happen. So Tim, ever since I was a little boy, I always knew I would be a CEO. I didn't know how or what, but I knew I would be a CEO. I knew I would be someone that would be the visionary, and someone that would actually be making these decisions and so forth. So I had to find a way to get there, because being a CEO is not cheap and it's definitely not easy to do. And so for me, I just to give you my career line, I started at 12 years old cutting grass in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I did that for 3 seasons, and the grass cutting season in North Carolina is actually pretty long. It's from like March to, I would say, now about September timeframe. And so I did that, and then in the fourth quarter, October, all the way until like the middle of the first, I rake leaves and stuff like that. That keeps the constant money coming in.
Right.
And then I employed two of my friends, and then they started cutting the grasses for me. And that's when I really found that if I can offer opportunities and jobs for other people, that not only can I make revenue, but I also can share the pot too. So I've always been a pot sharer, even now in the firm that I currently run. And so, fast forward, I worked in fast food as a teenager. I worked in grocery stores. I always had a job, always had a job. So, and I always had leadership positions in those jobs. And when I got to college, things changed, because I was so used to having a job, having income, to now I'm just focused on football and focused on schoolwork. I worked at the bookstore part time, which is pretty cool. I managed their inventory and their financial management, stuff like that. But Tim, I decided to join the Army. I decided to go in because I wanted to differentiate myself from my peers. I was 19 years old, and I knew if I served my country and was able to get out and tell the story, that the rest of my life would be made. I knew that for sure. And I knew that going into it, there would be an opportunity to either do 20 years or to do 5 and get out and do something even better. So that's what I did. I went to the Army, and I literally maximized every opportunity, from deploying to Iraq to redeploying back to Germany to going to Fort Lewis. Everywhere I went, I was always shaking hands and kissing babies and making relationships. And those things just, I didn't know it was kissing babies and shaking hands at the time, but now, being almost 40 years old, I'm like, that's what I was politicking at age 20
Yeah.
years old. I was making those relationships. And now some of those guys, or some of those guys and girls, are my biggest advocates. So for me, it was much different. I was groomed. I came from a family that, were into business, and my uncle was a really big part of that. He was a multimillionaire at the time, and I just was always around influence and capital, and just understood things from a very early age, and understood work ethic, understood that things are not free. You have to go out and earn it, and take it, and that kind of thing. So, for me, when I got into the workforce, I think my disappointment was that I was, behaving as a CEO, but my title was not CEO. My title was junior
Right.
guy, or that kind of thing. So it helped me move the ladder up pretty quick, even when I was in the federal government. But obviously, I got the chance to be a CEO like I am now, and started this company 11 years ago, and here we are. So a
Well,
little different than most people, I'll say.
yeah, no, but I think there's a couple of overlying kind of patterns and topics in there, and I want to ask this because you said that you went into the military at 19. So does
Yep,
that mean that you dropped out of college, or did you go a
I
different route and
did.
finish? Okay, so
Yep,
and you were
but
playing
I did
football, so
finish
that
though.
yeah,
Yep,
that's
I was on
that's kind of a
scholarship.
split in the path. If you're there at college playing football
Yep.
and working that aspect of it, that's one type of a career path. And all of a sudden, just to up and say no, I'm going to cut that off and I'm going to go to the military and sign up that way. Was that a shakeup? Was there something that happened within the family? Was there like, oh, everybody's shocked and they thought you were going to? I mean, maybe fill us in with that
Yeah.
part.
So my family were a little. I wouldn't say they were disappointed, because I've always made good decisions, even as a kid. I was just that kid. I never got in trouble. When I did get in trouble, it was things like, okay, Chas, you're just too young and don't have enough power and authority to do that. But that actually was pretty smart. So my parents always supported me. My dad sat me down and said, son, you got to make your decision. But the cool thing is, you could be selling drugs, you could be out here running the streets, but you're not. So, and to serve your country, I can't stop you from doing that. So I came to my parents. I was on football scholarship, so college was paid for. I just really didn't like football. I didn't like the program neither, that I was at the time. I enjoyed football because I'm good at it. I can naturally play the sport. Could I went to the NFL? Sure. I actually got a chance to do it again. So let me tell you the story. I went to Winston-Salem State. I didn't care for the program. I felt like it was inadequate in a lot of ways, and that was at that time. They've made a lot of great improvements now since then, and this was back in 2004, so it was a long time ago. And then I went to the military because I felt as if I did the military early, that it would set me up for my future, and I was spot on. I knew something was right about doing it, and I did it blindly, but with a little bit of due diligence, like, if you will, and that worked. And then I exited the military after 5 years of service, and then started actually playing football again. I went to Washington State University out in Pullman, Washington, on the campus, played football there, played under Paul Wolf, and then I played under Mike Leach as well. And then I had a shot for the NFL, but it just didn't make sense for me. At that time in my life, I was 25. I was over my time being managed by someone else. I want to have a little bit more control. And football is a 100% attention sports, especially national level, at the professional level. So I had a chance, a number of chances, and for football, if you will. But I've always been an academic guy. I've always been a business guy as well. I was fortunate to get my master's degree, which gave me a lot of opportunities as well. So that was my path, and my parents supported me the whole entire way through. I've always been someone that made good decisions. I was always a good kid. I never really had a lot of stuff going on in school, behavior wise. Academics were always up to par. So my parents just supported me. I did have a lot of people that say, like, you're wasting your talent, because you can't tell from me sitting down, but I'm 6'4" and some change. I'm 280 pounds still, and I still can bench 400 pounds. So, I'm your typical NFL guy. I ran a
I
4.8,
I would have never guessed that looking
4.80.
at you sitting down like that. I mean,
Yeah,
you look like a point guard, like a shooter kind of a guy.
a
That
shooting
just
guard.
based
Yeah.
on your build, you look like a real fast point guard.
No, I'm a real slow point guard. I can't even shoot. But many people meet me in person. They're like, "Wow, like, I can't believe you're this tall and it's big. Like, do you play football?" I'm like, "I used to, but I don't anymore. I still have the strength. I still keep in good shape, that kind of
Right.
thing." But for me, I've always been a nerd, man. So, like, rock out to the nerds.
That's all right. I'm good with that. I'm really curious though when you look at, and maybe this is some introspection and things that you got to actually take a second to think about. But was there what we call the false narrative or a false belief that you had prior to stepping into the business world? I mean, you had a lot of great mentors. You had a lot of people
Mhm.
showing you direction, but was there this idea, belief, or even a false narrative that you held that you found was holding you back as you were entering into your professional career?
Um, Not really, because I had so much realistic people around me. I think for me, I sold myself short.
Mm,
And so growing up, I was taught overperform, overachieve, over deliver, under promise. And then once I got into the professional space, I was like, actually, I can get away with a little bit more than what I am getting away with. So I think for me, it was the opposite, which, like I said, I was groomed from very early on. I mean, my grandfather was a politician. My uncle was, a great businessman. He's still alive. My grandfather passed away. My dad had a massive work ethic. My mom was also very hard on me as well. I came from a two-family conservative Christian strict home. It was God, country, and football. So, it was drilled in us to perform,
yeah.
from day one, perform, perform, perform. And so when I got into the workplace, there were things that I didn't understand at first in regards to, like, how to politic, but that just naturally came with learning the people at the place.
Mm,
So for me, I had a really different experience. There was really nothing that was too difficult about it. It was just a matter of just learning each place politics and falling in line and doing my part, and knowing when to shut my mouth and knowing when to speak up. And
yeah.
yeah, that,
Yeah. Well, and there's two questions that come up here, and I want to address both questions, and I'll let you
yeah,
direct it as far as how you want to take the conversation. But first of all,
okay,
when you're talking about each workplace has a set of politics, and I think you can
yeah.
probably speak to this. First of all, maybe can you define what you mean by that? Because we have a lot of different terms, and especially in our country, and both in the business world, we all kind of look at politics, and it's like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
I think there's also good to it, but a lot of people
hmm
have a negative impact when we use that word politics. So can you kind of define and explain exactly what you mean by that? And then how
Yeah.
is it a positive, and how are you able to fit in and be able to use that to your, I don't want to say manipulate, but influence that to your advantage?
Absolutely, yeah. So every place has politics, and this is what I tell people: think about it from a micro level. The way that you do your pancakes every Wednesday, right? The way you cook your pancakes and the way you deliver them to the kids may be different than the way someone else does that. So if I come to your house, I may be used to pancakes being cooked with milk, and then they've been delivered on a plate, and then you put it right in front of me on the table. Where if you come to someone else's house, they actually cook the pancakes without milk. They use, let's say, almond milk, and they leave it inside of a pan, and you fix it yourself. That's just the politics. You have to get used to the way things are done. So I try to inform people politics is just the way a group of people do things in a setting. It can change at any time, and you have to be able to change with that. And so, what I mean by politics, from, let's say, from a grown-up perspective, a business perspective, is how do people communicate? What do they typically communicate about? What's important for them? What are their ethos, and how do they actually enforce those ethos? Because what we do as far as our ethos and what we do as far as daily practice often differ. You have to be keen to that. And so the way to, I guess, manipulate that or to fall in line is to say, do I agree with the politics here? And the politics basically is how we do business, what we do, how we communicate. Do we communicate through Slack, through Zoom? Do we do face-to-face interactions in office? Do we have a hybrid schedule? Like, whatever those politics are, falling in line with that. And then some people have to understand that, as humans, we are a very touch, a sensory demographic of people. We want to touch, feel, and see. And so some people in some spaces, let's say for instance our IT team, they don't want to talk to you in person. They rather communicate through
This
IM,
is so
or
true.
DM, right?
Right.
That's their
Yep.
that's their politics. Whereas with me as a CEO, I want to shake your hand. I want to get to know who you are. I want to know all about your kids, your family. That's just my politics. And so me as a CEO, I kind of set the tone for politics, and then each member takes from that set of politics and make it their own. So it's essentially politics from the standpoint of how things operate in an organization or inside of an entity is how the members communicate, how they interact, how they get the mission complete. Politics from a congressional standpoint is much more, I guess, profound, because there are a lot of different moving parts and there's a lot more emotions involved, and there's two different main parties, even though there's multiple parties, but there's two different main parties. But that's what I mean by office politics or business politics.
Yeah, and I love the way that you kind of described that. But here is what I feel is the underlying thing. I'm sure you're familiar with emotional intelligence. If you
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, if you
Hmm.
don't have EQ or emotional intelligence, there's no
Hmm.
way that you're going to actually be able to sense or feel or understand what's going on within the organization, which is the politics side of things. So when you are
Absolutely.
talking with a potential employee, or you're talking with other individuals that maybe you're going to partner with, how do you tell them that they either need to develop their EQ or their emotional intelligence, or they need, like, how important is it to you and to the organization, and how does that all kind of intertwine with that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I'm in my office now, and our team members are across over here in the boardroom. And one of our team members, his name is Adam. He's doing his online training. We send all of our staff to online training. We also send them through a psychological assessment so they understand how to communicate in the workplace. And so for
Mm,
me as a CEO, I try to be careful. When the company was smaller, like 10 employees, that was easier to do. Because it's okay to directly communicate to employees as a CEO. But now when I communicate, people are like, "Oh my God, the CEO emailed me, and am I in trouble?" They just don't understand how really cool I really am.
that's
Uh,
that's the first thought. Everybody, oh, I got a meeting, so
am I
I'm
in
going to get
trouble?
fired. I'm sure that's
Yeah,
what it is.
like it won't be with the CEO. I wouldn't fire you. That the HR would do that. But
Right.
but the thing is, I think for me, how I've communicated is having people understand how do you want to be communicated with, understand your communication style, and understanding that what you say means a lot, but how you say it means even more. And
Hmm.
being able to understand how people receive information. It's like the five love languages, right? You have
Yeah.
words of affirmation, physical touch, time, quality time, and so forth. Like understanding what's valuable to the next person, and that's one thing that is not one course. It's not one communication set. It's a really ongoing practice of understanding how people work well together. And as I was expressing yesterday, we have a few new team members that just started yesterday here in the firm. I was expressing, we actually will go through 600 applicants, and we will find, let's say, 50 that are phenomenal. They're great. We really want them. Even though they may have more talent, they weren't a good fit for this specific team, which means
Yep.
the EI, the EQ quadrant will be thrown all the way off because they don't fit the team. And so I think, not
Yep.
only does it take strong leadership to understand EQ and how it in place and how it works apart in the workplace, but also how to build dynamic teams around people's personalities. And that's how you get a good harmony in a company.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So let me. We're going to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
There's two pieces of this, but the first one is I want to ask this question: is what do you feel is the greatest challenge, the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome stepping into your professional life, or what is the
I
thing that?
was
You go ahead. I'll let you just answer that, and then I'll ask the follow up.
what I would say too, now, I run a company and I've been doing this for 11 years now. And so from a CEO standpoint, the hardest challenge for me is wanting to not be as generous as I normally am. I'm a very generous person, probably a little too generous, and my staff have really helped me ring in, like not just giving in. I want to help everybody. I think everybody's qualified to some capacity. I think everyone can do the job. Like if you can get up and breathe, you can do whatever anybody else can do. That's my philosophy. Obviously, that's what now happens in real life. But I think the biggest thing for me is being able to properly compensate people. And what I mean by that is sometimes I'll overcompensate as far as like dollars per year. Getting better with that. The other challenge is being able to take things off my plate. Even though I've done a good job of it so far, I think there's things I still do that I shouldn't be doing as a CEO. But that's just because I just love what we do as a business. That's another
Hmm.
challenge. And I think the last and final challenge is really coming into one of my own. I think that's a founder's issue when you found a company and it's something that's so critical to a lot of people. You tend to want to stay involved, but I've learned over the last at least 3 years that being too much involved actually stops the process. It slows it, it bottlenecks it. So I've gotten better with that. I'm still pretty young as far as the business is concerned. I mean, been doing it for 11 years, and I've just really got to the point where I've moved out my own way. So,
Hmm.
yeah, and of course, forever learning too.
So, but let me ask you a deeper question. We're going to just kind of go one level down. What's
Yeah.
the greatest challenge that you deal with in your personal life and in your family life?
Um, it used to be dating, honestly. To be real with you, it used to be dating. So I was married for a while when I was in the military, and we got divorced. And I had been a single dad for about 11 years. So I met my now current fiance, and we've been together for almost 2 years. And so that time of, let's say, 2 years ago,
Right.
and post divorce, that time period was maybe, I want to say, like 12 years. And so that was the tough part of like being a full time dad, being a full time CEO. And when people meet me, they're like, "Oh man, your wife must be amazing. Your kids are so great." I'm like, "Well, you know, I have full custody of my kids. They're with me every single day. They see their mom, every so often, if you will, because she was pretty busy. She was traveling. She was living over in, I think it was Arizona somewhere she was living. I was living in Virginia at the time. So I think that was the biggest hurdle in my personal life was the dating side. And once I figured that out and, got settled down, I think it was a lot better for me. But personal life, I think the biggest hurdle outside of the dating thing was finding time for me. I've always given
Mhm.
my time to everyone else. I've always felt as if, if I can be there and be present, that it makes the company look better as well. But actually, like I said, I was bottlenecking a lot of things back in the day, so that was the issue. But I think the biggest thing was honestly just taking time for myself. I work, work, work a lot. I do keep a good balance with my kids as well. At that time, when I was a single dad, so we do have time together every single day. But I would work all around the clock from outside of that. So I think that was the thing
Do
is
you
just finding
do you feel
balance.
like that part of it? Do you feel like you were trying to compensate for something? Was it a nervous aspect? And I'm asking because I've been in this position where I worked a lot
Yeah,
and then just didn't take care of myself, and then things started. And the reason why let me lead up to this is the reason why I'm asking this question is because it often leads us to where we get extremely close to either an emotional or a mental breakdown, and we
yeah,
really struggle internally and just like I'm ready to just give up. So I guess I'm
right.
asking, one, did you get to that point? And then what have you done to be able to change that? And I found for myself as I was trying to compensate for other things outside of it and fulfill that void with just working more.
Yeah. I think for me, so I did almost hit burnout a couple times in my career. I came to the point where I was almost having, well, I wouldn't say a mental breakdown, but I was at the point where I was like, I'm done with this business. I'm tired of it. But the reason why I was working so much is because I've always had a fear of failure. I do not
Mm,
want to fail. If I do fail, and I have failed before. Obviously, I failed big time back in my day, and I will have some failures in the future for sure. But I've always learned from them. So
yeah.
I always call it either I'm learning a lesson or I'm winning, one of the two. And once I embodied the notion that if I fail at something, I just learned versus I lost, that's when I got better. And then
Mm,
I also started to take on the position that it will happen, it will get done. Like we have a great team, like just trust the process. And so for me, I was really afraid of failure. At the beginning of the company, we only did VA claims. Now we do much more than just VA claims, but we did VA claims. And so for me, I have a fiduciary responsibility to my client to make sure that their case wins. We don't get a second chance in the VA claims process. You do it right the first time, or if it's denied, it's very hard to turn it over unless there's a reasonable rationale as to why it was denied,
Right.
and you can, of course, get it reversed. So it's very serious, and it's someone's money on the line. It's their livelihood. A lot of these veterans that we were dealing with in the beginning, days, even now, they are looking for this compensation to pay their bills and looking to pay for college tuition and so forth. So there's a lot riding on my shoulders to perform. And so for me, I'm already a big time performer. Like I said, from early on
Right.
as a little boy, I was groomed to perform at a high level. And then there's also the aspect of this is a veteran's life that I'm managing, and I'm gonna make sure he or she is taken care of. And so
Yeah.
that propelled, obviously all these cases are coming all around the country. That propelled into, I'm just gonna be a workaholic and work my ass off and make sure I earn their business, earn their respect. It paid off for sure, massive dividends in regards to credibility and respect
Right.
in the industry. But I did take a hit. I ended up developing high blood pressure from it, which I'm still working those kinks out health wise. But I've been fortunate to build a good team. People trust us now a lot more from an employee standpoint. When we first put up jobs, people are like, who is Seven Principles? What do you guys do? And I don't find much of you guys online. There's no Google reviews. And now that's much different, obviously, because they can look at the reviews and see that this is a great company to work for.
Yeah.
And we have a real solid mission that's really helping people in real time. So I think for me, from an entrepreneur standpoint, it was worth putting my health at risk and losing those nights of sleep and not being able to hang out with friends and family members and losing relationships because I was just too busy or not present. Relationships like friends from high school and college, that kind of thing. Like they'll understand hopefully. If they don't, then it is what it is. I think that was well worth it. And I would do it over again a million times because it ended up creating what we have now, which is a company where people love and respect. It's an amazing workplace. We keep our employees. I mean, our oldest employee, I think, is 8 years. I've been doing it
Mm.
for 11. So, and we have several of those employees that have been with us for 8, 9 years. I mean, so that speaks to itself.
Yeah.
Whenever I see team members getting into mortgages, buying new vehicles, getting married, developing their family, having more babies, stuff like that. We got 2 employees on maternity leave. To me, that says, okay, my efforts of sacrificing my health, sacrificing my time, losing relationships, and the list goes on. It was well worth it because look what I was able to build, and then
Yeah.
look what I was able to also bring into the equation of building. And now we continue to build with new team members and stuff like that. So
Is there anything that you would go back and do different?
I would have a partner first. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, I would do a partner absolutely
That's
right from
actually
the
an
beginning.
interesting statement. I have talked to probably 20 or 30 different individuals who said they would never do partnerships again, ever.
Because they did it wrong, and so I
I'm
did it wrong
sure.
too. They did it
Right.
wrong. Yeah, they did it
I'm
wrong.
sure. But
Um, and I think that's a lesson. So I had a partnership. I was year 2 into the business, and I was just getting my feet, kind of stabilized. We were making decent money, about $250,000 a year. So okay money for a business at that time, especially being 2 years old. And I had a partnership that I did wrong. It was a 50-50 deal, Tim. It was a horrible deal. And it wasn't a horrible deal. It's just that we didn't agree on culture. I
that's
wanted
the
to have a
key.
workplace. It was the key, the culture,
Hmm.
how our employees taken care of, how do we take care of our customers and our clients, how do we communicate, and how do we scale, right? This is all about scalability, repeatable things that happen over and over again that generate revenue. And so we differed on that. And I think it was maybe a generational thing. I was maybe 20 years his senior. He was 20 years, older than me. And I wanted to invest in tech and artificial intelligence and really scale the company. He was like, no, we can meet people where they are, shake their hands. We can do it right here in this part of the country. And I was like, no, we can scale and use
Yeah.
tech and be in all 50 states. So we just differed. And then we also differed on how we train our staff members, how they communicate with our customers, how they dress when they come to work. I wanted a more relaxed environment. I was more tech. I wear t-shirts to work and shorts, and he wanted to wear suit and ties. I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I did that in the federal government. I don't want to wear suit and ties every day. I'm tired. The
Exactly.
dry cleaning bill
Right.
is
Right.
is enough to put me in bankruptcy,
Yeah.
So we just differed. So that's how I did a partnership wrong. But looking at that wrong partnership development, I looked at it and said, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it with another partner, but the right partner,
Right.
someone that bought in, the skin into the game, understood the business. They had skill sets that I didn't have, and I have skills that they don't have, and we work well together. And we are friends first. We want to see this work, and if it doesn't work, we can walk away peacefully. Even though that's hard to do, I think it's manageable. So I would actually have had a partner first, or probably raised capital. I would have raised
Yeah.
capital. I
Well,
bootstrapped
and
the whole entire operation.
I think what you're speaking towards is really making sure that you have the same value system or the same
Hmm.
value foundational structure. And if you have the same value structure, then that allows you to overcome the conflict and overcome the challenges and the scalability and all the other things that you were mentioning. If you have that base of, we have the same values, we believe in the same
Absolutely.
thing, we're going in the same direction. I think that's really the key there. So, what, and I want to kind of end on this part of it, but what are some things that you do that are habits and routines that really keep you going? And you mentioned earlier about making sure that you take time for yourself, and then you've got your family
Hmm.
responsibilities and your kids and a newborn, and now you got a bit, I mean, all of these things that are kind of coming together. What are the non-negotiables, the things that you are going to do day in, day out, week after week? What are those things that are, this is how I'm crafting and creating my life?
7 hours of sleep. Let's start there. That is super important. So for me, I need 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep. If I do eight, I'm gonna be too drowsy. So 7.5 hours of sleep typically works for me. I am so serious about that to the point where we actually hired a nanny to make sure that I can, wherever I can't fill in for my young son, that the nanny can, I can still get my sleep. So that's, and for my fiance as well. So sleep is so important for me. A lot of people days, oh, I'll sleep when I die. You'll die early and you'll be
Yeah.
sleeping forever. But for me, I'm gonna get my rest. So 7 hours of sleep is very important for me. Finding a alone time where I do nothing. I literally break away from everything. There's no phone, there's no music. It's just me enjoying nature. That's work. That works for me. I live here in Houston, Texas. It's very beautiful as far as nature is concerned. A lot of walkways and bayous, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So taking time just to think about nothing. Literally, just take away from it because I deal with so much every single day. I get hit
Right.
with so many different things from different people all across the
Right.
country. So it's a lot on my plate. But taking time for me, and then of course eating healthy. I'm on a keto diet right now, which is like my third different type of diet over the last probably 15 years. This one's probably been the best, which I probably look like a point guard because I've been shaping up a lot better. But really dieting and then just being grateful every morning. Tim, I wake up, I say, God, I thank you. I am just grateful for what I have, even when things are not going the way I want them to go. I am still grateful. So that's what works for me. And then taking time with family. I mean, I know it's kind of cliche. A lot of people say they take time with family, but I literally have. We have a whole separate theater room upstairs in our home, and that is called the family area. You do ain't, nothing happens there except for family time.
Mhm.
That's it. It's four TVs on the wall. They all congruent together. They work as one matrix, and that's the time for family. And what we do is we tell the kids, "Hey, you guys pick what you want to see on TV because we want to see where their heads at, what they have going on. We want to see what's really going on day to day for them." So, and of course, the kids keep me pretty busy, so it's pretty cool to kind of keep up with the trends that are happening. If you follow my TikTok, I'm all on TikTok as well.
Yeah.
My daughter, she goes viral often. I mean, her TikToks, and we do dances from time to time. So, for me, it's just trying to remain as young as I can, spirit wise,
Mm.
being around people that are just hip to the culture, whether it's TikTok or social media, or whether it's business wise, just really just always learning. So that's what keeps me at it every day. And of
Yeah, I
course,
love it.
I'm a performer, so my goal is to perform. So that keeps me going as well because I'm always learning new things and investing in new things. And I'm now becoming a real estate developer, so that's my new career now, which has been pretty fun too. So I'm always just learning new things and just being active. And I never forget. And I know I'm kind of tearing on here a bit, Tim, but I have a colleague of mine. His name is Jerry and Ted. Ted particularly. Ted is 83. And I always ask, like, how do you stay so busy? This guy, I call him, I'm in Cambodia, I'm in Australia. I'm like, how are you moving around so easy like this? Like, I don't know many 80-year-old guys that just move
Right.
like how he moves, runs marathons. And so I said, what's your secret? He says, when I was in my 40s, I decided to always stay active and just keep learning and keep moving. And so that's what I do. And it keeps me happy. It keeps
I
me
love it.
keeps me on top of my game too.
Yeah, I actually, this side note, I just recently picked up pickleball, and I'm one of those
Yeah,
guys.
I
I
love
mean,
pickleball.
it's just one of those fads, but I'm loving it. I'm like, it
Yeah, it
keeps
keeps
me
you
moving.
busy. Keeps you
Exactly, it
going.
keeps you
Yeah,
moving. Exactly,
absolutely.
exactly. So, all right, um, a couple of questions, but the one is I want to
Mhm.
ask, like, what's that one thing that you want somebody to walk away with? However, I also there's a lot of veterans that listen to our podcast. In fact, we've interviewed
Okay.
a lot of different nonprofits that work with veterans. We have a couple of different events and things that we promote that also work with the nonprofits with veterans and stuff. So I wanted you to just mention how you help and work with veterans, if you don't mind doing that. And then,
Absolutely.
and then the second part of that is I want to also just try to narrow down, if you can, just one thing that, hey, this is the one thing that if you didn't listen to anything else, I want you to get this.
Yeah. Yeah. So first I'll go into why I'm qualified to do what I do. So I was a raider in the VA. And the raider is the guy or gal. It's called an RVSR. That's the actual technical term. It's a GS-0996 role, which is a Veterans Claim Examiner. So I was a raider at the VA in Washington, D.C., and I made the final decisions on appeal cases. And so appeal cases typically come with very high dollar amounts because they've been denied and denied and denied for sometimes decades. And so when I grant a case, I'm typically granting six figures, 100, 200,000, 400,000 in back pay. And if it's that large, it's probably 100% permanent total as well. And they're making an extra, a couple $1,000s per month. So I was doing that on the federal level. I started working with NGOs, which are non-government organizations, consulting firms, and some VSO outfits as well, on how we as raiders make decisions. And when I found out that the folks that were helping and advocating for veterans were not as competent as I think they should have been of how we make our decisions, I was like, that's why there's a break in the system, because this third party organization, which is here to advocate for veterans, they're not properly equipped, no fault of their own in some cases, they're not properly equipped uniformly across all people that are in that role to understand how we execute decisions on the federal level. And so once I got into that, it just exploded, and people were seeking me out left and right. End up, Tim, I'm a finance guy. My master's in finance. My vision was to be a hedge fund manager or a private equity manager, which we just developed a private equity fund because now we raised a bunch of capital and we're doing real estate stuff, that kind of thing. So I'm a finance guy. My goal was to stay in finance and to do just that kind of work, but I couldn't tell veterans no, and they kept asking for help.
Right.
So I was like, well, we're gonna make this into a business. So what ended up happening is I started working with a lot of consulting firms in Washington, D.C., doing their back office work. Just they bring the case to me and I would give them, go this way, go left, go right, go up or down. Oh, it's not going to work. Go this direction. And they would do it, and it worked every single time. And so what started to happen is these veterans were asking very specific questions that a lot of the lawyers couldn't answer. And so the attorneys would send it back to me. And in one particular firm, which is pretty bad, I can't say their name, we under a confidentiality agreement, they said, how about we just feed them directly to you through a website? Cool. So they put our banner on their website. They fed directly to us. We use Get the Referral. So shout out to Get the Referral. We use their resource to be able to create what's called advocates, which are basically referral sources like B2B referrals. And that's how I got into the business of actually doing this kind of work. And so to parlay into your question, I'm sorry, what was your question again? Because I was telling how I'm qualified.
No.
The question
It was really like, what do you do for them? Like, how can
what I do for them. Yep.
Yeah, because I'm going to actually share this with a bunch of different people that we're already connected with, and so I
Yep.
want them to be able to say, I want to be able to go say, hey, this is what Chas said. So here you go.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for that, Tim. Sorry about that. So what we do for them is a lot of veterans, so first, let me preface this. You have free resources. You can also DIY, do it yourself. Those are the two options you typically have, or you can find someone that has just enough understanding of the process to do it for them. Oftentimes that doesn't work for many veterans, and they come seek out our services, and we actually do the whole entire case for them. So they fill out an intake form. The intake form is about 18 questions long. Half of those questions are like first name, last name, email address, very simple things you know how to answer pretty quickly. And then we ask about your MOS or your AFSC, based your job in the military. And then we ask like, what's your current percentage and like, how'd you hear about us, right? And then from there, it goes to our account management team, and then it goes to our team of former raiders and attorneys and doctors that then
Right.
put the case together for them. Unfortunately, we don't accept every single client. We decline about 60 to 65% of the clients that come to us because their case either lack merit or we just know it's not going to work on the VA level. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like there's some merit here, but it's just not a suitable case based on the CFR guidelines. So we do all the work for them, from DBQs to putting the case together, researching medical records, finding conditions that should be increased or added as secondary conditions or just claimed, period, and finding ways to make sure that they get the most money they possibly can each month for the rest of their life. That's what we do in a very simple nutshell. And we do it all for them. There is no guesswork for the veteran. It's white glove. Reason why we do it that way is because oftentimes veterans may have a misunderstanding of the process or of the statute, and that misunderstanding can lead to denial in cases, which happens it's happening right now as we speak. Someone's getting denied in the federal government right now. They
Right.
put their case together. And so that's what we do. And we also do appeals as well. We have an Office of General Counsel where we have accredited people in that particular entity that work with us as well to do appeal cases. We have 2 general counsel staff on staff, W-2 full-time folks that also are accredited as well. So if we ever have to go to court for any type of regional office issue or a BVA issue, Board of Veteran Appeals, then we can do that as well. We do a POA appointment also. So, we're a full gamut, and now we're growing so massively to where we've gotten to other things. We have a mortgage entity as well, so we're able to give a lot of great discounts on the mortgage side. We have a real estate entity as well. The real estate entity is pretty small because it's focused here on Houston, Texas. So we do a lot of like developments, fix and flips. We do funding as well. We also do buy and sell representation. So that's that. And our most recent cool item that we're deploying in October is an artificial intelligence apparatus application that helps those that can't afford our services. So you have folks that can't afford us. You have folks that also don't want to go the free route or DIY. This is a resource for them to be able to use it and figure out on their own. If they want help, you can call us. We'll help you out, walk you through the process of how to put your case together yourself and figure it out. The name of the game, Tim, is we don't want to charge veterans for the service, but obviously we have 130 callers per day that are all veterans that are looking for the service. Like, that takes capital to run. The payroll is not cheap. It's not cheap. So this is the route that we chose, but we're looking for a way to make it where either a third party would pay for the app and then it's just all free and they can figure on their own and they go straight to the VA. But that's what we do. We help with the claim process. We do the whole entire claim for the veteran. We walk them through the coaching sessions before they go to CNP exams to make sure they understand the elements of the matter and they can speak to it so they can understand what their elements are. Some guys and gals play their elements down. That's just the nature of military service, I suppose. But yeah, and very simply put, that's what we do.
Yeah. Wow.
And then what they should walk away with, that was your other question. They should walk away understanding that if you don't have your benefits, you should get them. That's what I want, impress upon veterans. If you don't have your benefits, get them. There's free resources. You can go to VSOs, VFW, DAV, whomever. You can DIY it yourself. Just ask several questions. And those questions are, how many cases have you touched in your career? For me, I've touched about 40,000 cases, probably 37,000, somewhere in that ballpark. It's probably really like a lower 31. But I would say there's another 6,000 I've just done for free. Like we give back, we give back 10% of our time. We have a CSR in the firm where we give back 10% of our time every year. So I hold these clinics and I touch cases and I tell them, increase that, do this, move here. Like I can look at a case and tell you within minutes what to do with it. So make sure that they're competent. They have experience on doing this kind of work. Make sure they understand the difference between like an HLR and a supplemental claim and a perfected appeal and what an increase is in the secondary case and diagnostic codes. They need to understand those things. Ask those questions. If they can't spit that out off the top of their head, it's probably not your guy or girl to be working with. So, and then of course, if you feel as if, hey, I've been through those resources, like the bulk of our clients, or I want to do this right the first time, then of course you can seek out a company like Seven Principles. And then on the outside the veteran side, I would say the biggest thing is learning emotional intelligence, understanding how to communicate with people, understanding to meet people where they are. I have a saying, I never attribute to malice what could be blamed on ignorance, right? You'd be surprised how some people just don't know. And it may seem like it may seem mean, but it's just not what you may have done. So I always go with grace. I always lead with, hey, what was the intent here? A lot of times people get hot tempered about things. People will tell you, you'll never see me mad. I've never, ever get mad. If I am mad, I typically raise my voice just a little bit. And that's because you have really violated me. And you know you were being malicious. So I have a pretty even temper. And it's because I look at what's the person's intent. And I think that helps people become better friends.
I love that. How can people get in contact with you? What's the best way? I mean, it sounds like you got a bunch, but.
Yeah, I tell people very simply, just Google my name, Chas Sampson. That's Chas Sampson. All of my socials come up. I think my phone number's out there too as well. I get a lot of crazy calls, but I'm pretty easy to reach, man. You can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And if veterans want help with their cases, obviously I want to understand, like, I won't touch your case, like, personally. That disrupts our process. We have an amazing staff of people that deal with all that every single day.
Right.
So if they want help, they can visit sevenprinciples.com and they can start the intake process or learn more about what we have on our website. We have a lot of cool blogs now. We've come a long way, Tim.
Yeah.
I wasn't a website guy, so we actually just invested quite a bit of capital into making sure we have a better web presence. And we always had a web presence, but now it's like really nice and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But yeah,
Awesome.
7principles.com, they can visit that for claims. And yeah, however I can be able to value it. We're going to start dropping more content here as well, because I've just been doing the work. I haven't been dropping content. So we've become a little bit more relevant in regards to things that we're doing and how we're doing it, and just giving more
Excellent.
value to the public. Yeah, man.
Well, I'm excited to share even with some of my local contacts and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of this stuff with them, because there's been multiple conversations, but that's a discussion for another time. So,
Right on. Thank you for that.
yeah. Want to say thanks again for spending the time with us today. I mean, it takes time out of your day to be able to do these things. So again, really, truly appreciate you giving us that time and that expense of that time. So thank you for doing that.
It's my pleasure, Tim. Thank you for having me. It means a lot.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Awesome.
listeners, as well.
Yeah. Yep. So guys that are listening, gals that are listening, that contact information, obviously we're going to have Chaz's name on the YouTubes and also some of the other places. You'll be able to find that. I want you to do this for me, though. If you're listening and something has touched you or something's doing, it's kind of just in your soul aspect, I want you to reach out either to me or to Chaz and say, hey, this touched us. This is something that really, really helped. And I know just because the people that we have on this show have a huge heart and they want to help out. And so that's what we're all about. So if something did, reach out to Chaz, reach out to myself, let us know. We'll definitely pass that back and forth. But until next time, keep writing and crafting your story. Keep pushing forward, because that is something that is important. You are valuable. Your story is important. And we'll talk with these guys soon.